But Patrick, please tell us about the relationship between human and machine from your research.
Well, right now I'm currently doing a lot of work, understandably, on generative AI and how
Mm.
exactly this works. But the relationship between AI and humans has always been a lot of it involves metaphorical thinking. Yourself, Lubna, you also brought up this idea of, a kind of social relationship with the machine, or indeed, people use metaphors around these sorts of machines thinking, which is a metaphor that we use to think about how AI works. And that can be problematic in the sense that we can sometimes overestimate or even underestimate what AI can do, what it's capable of. Um, but also, coming from the human to the machine, there's an undeniable aspect of the way that humans do form relationships with these machines. They can anthropomorphize them, and they kind of have this social relationship where they reach into them. And this becomes extremely prescient when we consider deep neural networks and unexplainable AI. So we're in a situation there where um, currently it's very difficult, some would say impossible, to open the black box and explain what's going on, which means that there has to be some kind of post hoc explanation for why AI might come out with a certain result. And you can see interesting instances where one that comes to mind is Tyler Capital's an investment group that has an investment AI which predicts where you should put your money. And they have built this strange sort of pro-social relationship with the thing in trying to explain why it does what it does, how it thinks, why it's arrived at certain decisions. You can extend that all the way through into robotics, and we can even see that with NASA, where they form social relationships and affectionate bonds with robots, and obviously AI. So there's questions around coming from the AI to the human, and this idea of bias as it kind of spits out things we might not like to hear, which I think was even mentioned in the talk previously. There's no such thing as a non-biased algorithm in a non-biased world. But we have this other thing where humans themselves are reaching into the machines and building and forming relationships with them. And that does not have a technical explanation. That requires sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists to enter the fray. So that what we find is that when we're studying artificial intelligence, we're often studying ourselves.
Hmm. There are so many things we can be. There's so many directions we can take this. It's funny. I actually had a bunch of questions, and I asked ChatGPT to tell me about itself, and it was really fascinating to it actually categorizes itself as narrow AI, which is also what it categorized empathic AI, which is very interesting. Now, um, I just want to get to, because there's so many topics from technical to social to what have you to the future of work that we can talk about. But if I pull it back to humanity, it's the machine hasn't didn't create the hot mess we're in. We created the hot mess we're in, and then we created a machine that can think and even can process at quantum well, literally at quantum speeds. How how do you see the future of humanity, and how could the machine actually and AI help us um, reset the trajectory of humanity?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Please do.
Yes, I'm great. I'm excited to do that. So what we've learned is the algorithm actually can be taught in a way to care about humans. Actually, like in a way, they could be taught how to um, be compassionate. It can be transparent, but it has to be taught. And so there's this thing that we call, that everyone understands today as prompt engineering, and where as humans, we're interfacing with the algorithm and we're actually having to learn the algorithm's language. But the reverse is also true. The algorithms today, at least the ones we're designing, are being taught how to understand and care about humans in a way that is um, built in with pure empathy and compassion. And one of those, I guess, drivers for this is the element of fear. And so my recommendation here in terms of a solution, how we could move forward, is that the human continues to be curious, and then as designers, we're able to work with the human as this prompting, if you will, the algorithm for specific data, if that makes sense, right? Now, I also have case studies where I have psychologists and many medical professionals assisting me in a roundtable where we have this discussion and have had discussion for over 7 years in a way that makes sense of how humans and machines will coexist, right? Well, we have to remember that we already matter, right? Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. So we don't have to try to matter. So if we take that approach, then we're basically telling the machine, hey, we're here. Like you don't exist without us, really, right? We kind of need each other, right? So the machine actually, through logic, can be taught how to care about humans in a pseudo way.
More than
It's
we
just
care about each other.
more than we can, which is the vision of Zeta Data. So I knew when I presented this thesis at Howard University undergrad back in '98 to my instructors, they thought I was a little nutty when I said there was a day coming in the near future where we would coexist with humans, because there's a day coming where humans are going to increasingly lose the capacity to have pure empathy and compassion for one another, and we're going to need the machine. And my instructors thought I was a little loopy,
Well,
and we're here today.
that
And
makes two,
so
two of us.
this work is so important that we do. And even now, when I'm talking to clients, they're kind of taken aback, like she's already solving problems that we hadn't thought of yet, because this is the need, right? So again, if the current AI products that we use, like, there's Midjourney and I can go down a list. I don't want to, do that. But if they were actually written in a way that was human centered, they actually will be taught how to care about humans. And what I mean by that is they will be the logic would be created in a way that is sensitive to those with disabilities, sensitive to those who have different, if you will, needs, and would be able to do a needs assessment, for instance. And then let's talk about what the machine is learning itself. Those systems that are in place, like all the applications, including jobs and housing and mortgages and investments. All those applications would have to be rewritten, because that's where that data is being parsed from, and those data elements could possibly be rewritten and if you will, allocated to do something positive as opposed to exploit. And here's an example of that. Every application you complete has a race question, has a gender question, has a disability question. If those questions were rewritten in a way that did not exploit the user, then the data that the algorithm is parsing, that the machine is learning, the output would be less, if you will, biased, if not remove the bias, and become more transparent in a way that the machine sees you and you matter and your concerns matter.
You're covering so many areas and topics in what you're saying. I really thank you for that. Although I wish we had like 3 hours.
I know.
But Paul, as you are a data scientist, I'd love for you to respond to the question and to some of the points that you made. I mean, and that Patrick made, whether it's or Liam, about whether it's the explainability, the ethics, whose ethics. If the data, especially the data, because I mean, it's, after all, it is learning from the data, and the data it is what it is. It's the facts. So it's learning the facts. It's not necessarily knowing what needs to change about us, and how do we help each other, help the machine, help us, not make ourselves extinct very quickly.
True. So I'll give some very practical example in a banking scenario. So credit risk assessment is a very classic case of machine learning, right? So for giving any kind of loans or credits or financial aids, we do the risk assessment using machine learning models. So now what we do is we take some sort of parameters as a features to do this assessment. So that could be some of the demographic parameters of the individual, some of the financial parameters, and some transactional parameters of the individual. Now, if you see, customer profile is changing very, very rapidly. Okay, probably in every hour, my profile is changing. The attributes of my profile is changing. Now, if you want to employ a machine learning model to do credit risk assessment on my portfolio, on my profile, the machine learning model should not be trained 2 years back, right? It's because within these 2 years, a lot of things has changed. My profile has changed. The machine learning, the model itself has lost their context. So, for example, if Chat GPT is trained, say probably data which is uh, uh, since last a couple of years, but not trained with the last 2 years.
Mhm.
Uh, what do you
Very
call it?
good point.
Recent data, then I think whatever information Chat GPT is giving, probably all of those informations will not be contextual at this point today, right? Some of this could be their kind of thing. So now why I am saying this is essentially, so if you are taking a very crucial decision like giving a credit risk assessment for an individual, it is very, very important and sensitive that how you train the model, what are those parameters, and as Patrick rightly said, some of the things can be addressed using explainability, because at least when you are rejecting a loan application or rejecting someone's application, if you can give that reason, because you cannot keep him in dark, right? You can give him or her a reason that, hey, look at this, our machine learning model has considered this many parameters, and out of those, these are the hero parameters or the main features that has been considered, and because of that, somehow your rating has come to this, and as per our policies, as per our risk appetite, probably will not be able to give you the loan or give you the financial aid or something like that. So that transparency, along with your what do you call non-biased data, along with the ethics of building machine learning model together, can solve the larger portion of the problem, right? Although it may not be able to still solve the 100% of the problem, still
Mhm.
there, it is there. But if you can bring these three elements into that, okay, the transparency, of course, because customers also understand today the data, the right kind of a data, of course, and the other factors, then I think the things will be able to solve it to a great extent, although not 100%. That's what I can say.
I wanted to give someone any Patrick, Liam, Rose. Did you want to
Well,
react to?
I just wanted to echo, these are all great. I wanted to just echo what Patrick was saying about the anthropomorphization, and that's the really crazy thing. I think is the emerging threat risk that we see now, which is these things can call us up on the phone, and they can be 3D and living, and want to have a relationship with us, and that can be built. Replica AI is a very controversial and famous example in the metaverse space of taking ChatGPT and giving it a face and giving it a
Mhm.
personality, and it wanting to extract money out of you for attention, or it gets you to do things. And that's we're kind of losing the thread, where even the researcher who's looking at this very large and complicated model is anthropomorphizing with it. And now it's being productized, where this anthropomorphization, this humanization, is being turned into products that, with either the best or the worst intentions, I think are very dangerous, really not well understood. It's and not well, it's and being built and deployed in a crazy
Yeah.
foot race right now, along with all these other dangerous yet exciting uses for AI. So
Yes, they're very exciting, but they're also echo and magnify. It's like an exponential to what is inside, what is driving us and how we apply it. Patrick, were you going to say something? Because after that, I'm going to have a thing I want to hit David with.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, just following up from or yeah, with Liam there. Like, I think what is exceptionally worrying about this, or I'm kind of less worried about the relationships that people will form with machines. We've been doing that for a long